Well, good morning, my dear friends. I'm just off my kitchen, and this is my can of worms that I've had since 2009. And you can see it has a bottom piece to it. That's the well. Of course, it has 5 legs. I've always kept it up on little cups. I was told that that would keep ants away. Well, I've never had an ant problem, but I still do it. And this is the spigot. If any liquids do drain out, then I'm ready. I have it draining in there, and that is the leachate. And I water that down and I add it to my plants. Always controversy on whether that's a good thing or not, but uh, it's worked for me, so I keep on doing it. And you can see that it has 3 trays, one, two, three, and a top lid. Top lid has holes in it. Each of these trays have holes in them. So by rights, you're stacking it, and you're constantly removing. Well, each month or whenever you harvest, you take out the bottom tray, and you harvest that. This becomes your bottom tray. That becomes your middle tray, and this gets cleaned out, and it gets laid up here, and it becomes the top tray. So I really never had a problem. I've kept it like I said. July it'll be 13 years that I've had this can of worms, and I have red wigglers. I started out with 2,000 red wigglers. I don't know how many are in there, but I've really never had a problem with them dying off or they self-regulate. If there's not enough room for them, then they will stop reproducing. And I used to harvest my castings, and if I saw any little worms or anything, I would take them out. But for the most part, I didn't take out any coons, and I really did miss a lot. So I think I was putting a lot out in the garden. And I have a heck of a lot of worms out in my garden, and some of them do look like red wigglers. So perhaps I have the type of climate that can uh, keep red wigglers alive. Either that or my birds feed very sparingly, and they only go for earthworms, and they leave the red wigglers alone. But my point of today was I never had a problem with mites before. About a year or so ago, I started noticing these little mites in my worm bin, and I looked up mites, and of course, mites are actually, they eat the garbage also. They compost, just like a red wiggler is a composting worm, and they feed off the top, whereas earthworms dig down into the earth, and they wouldn't really survive in a bin like this. At least that's what I'm told. So my red wigglers are the only thing that I have ever kept in here. Um, if anything else gets in there, it's uh, they're carrying their own luggage. It's never anything that I've put in there. So anyway, I wanted to go over this with you and tell you that with the mites, the way I was getting rid of them was I would just lift the lid and tilt it back, and it leans against the wall. Nowadays, they have a worm cafe that has hinges on it, and it sits on those hinges, so you don't need to put it in a corner. But for me, this is what works. So anyway, what I wanted to show you was that I would tilt this back, and I would get on the inside of the lid. They were crawling up, it seemed like from this side, and then they were sitting in that lid and crawling all around. So when I would tilt this back, mites do not do well out of a really moist situation. So as soon as the bin would dry out at all, then the mite population would go way down. I wouldn't have a problem. I was told white mites are not a problem. Red mites are, and then they can eat your worms. They can attack them. And so we don't want that. Well, I never had a problem with red mites until a couple days ago. I started noticing that when I lifted this, it had kind of it had kind of a Christmassy look. It had a little bit of red to it, and I thought, wonder what the heck. So I've heard one of the best ways of getting rid of mites or keeping the population down is to take a piece of bread and soak it in milk, and that the mites, instead of going to the lid, will go over to the milk and go over to the piece of bread that's been soaked in milk, and then you can collect that, throw it away, and keep your population down. So this morning I looked, and son of a gun, that they are on there, but I noticed that as soon as I lifted the lid, because of the light, they're like worms. They're very light sensitive, so they all dispersed. So I put the lid back on because I wanted to show you this and show you that it actually does work. So we're going to lift the lid. Make sure it doesn't drop. And I'm not sure if my camera is going to be able to pick this up, but can you see? Those are the mites moving around. And to be honest with you, they kind of look like all white mites this morning. But you can see they're moving. And I put it on a piece of cardboard because I thought that would just be easier. I don't know if I've gotten most of the red mites because yeah, you can see them, can't you? So anyway, I just wanted to add that if anybody's having a problem with mites and they're having a panic, I guess after almost 13 years, I don't really panic anymore, but I really wouldn't want to lose my worms. Normally they're in this lid, and you can see there, some of them do look like they're red mites, don't they? And I take it out and I wash it out, and then I put them back in. And how odd that they only seem to come up the one side. Maybe I'm just not looking the whole way around. But anyway, this seems like a good trick. I'll put the lid back on here and let it sit for a few hours and let them really collect on there, and then remove it quickly. So that was all I wanted to show you. As you can see, this is my top bin. I run mine just a little differently. I feed every day because I get a coffee filter every day. And we get junk mail every day. And so I just kind of layer it on there, and it works for me. And that's all I can say about a worm bin. If it works for you, then do it. And if it doesn't work for you, then try something else. So anyway, I hope everyone has a great day, and I hope you will try vermicomposting and keeping a worm bin. It's a lot of fun if you make it that way. Don't make it a chore. For me, this was just, instead of throwing things in the trash or down the garbage disposal, they got put in the worm bin. At the end of the month, and I go out and this is a labor intensive. I take that tray out and I go through and I harvest my castings. And to me, that's like money in the bank, because I'm getting to use that in my garden. And my way of doing it is that I add some to rainwater and stir it about, and then pour it on my plants, and they're immediately fed. So again, what works for you. So garden what you've got. I hope you guys will subscribe and ring the bell and come see me again. And I promise I'll be here. Take care. Bye-bye.